Welcome back to Fandom on Demand. I know I've been gone a very long time and I haven't put up any Starsky and Hutch reviews in like over a year. That's because I've been a bit busy with things. I had a baby. Anyway, for those of you who don't know or don't care, Due South is my favorite TV show. And so today, instead of getting back to, Starsky and Hutch things like I should be doing, I'm going to go ahead and count down my top 10 favorite Due South episodes. Okay? Great. And if you don't know what that show is, you need to go check it out immediately because it's a treasure and your life will be a little bit richer once you have a Mountie in it. Number 10, Victoria's Secret Part 1 and 2 / Letting Go. I'm completely cheating right out of the gate, but I don't care. Those 3 episodes go together like a nice cohesive arc, and I'm putting them on my list because it's my list and I'll cheat if I want to. Honestly, these almost didn't make the list because I don't really watch them that much because they're painful. But I ultimately did put them on the list because objectively I think they are great television and far and away the best thing that Due South ever produced. Frasier's loneliness is a theme throughout the entire series, and especially season 1 very slowly and carefully built up to this storyline, so I'll totally give credit to Paul Haggis for that. He did a great job with it. It's such a heart-wrenching story. There's this woman that he's convinced himself that he's in love with, and we know that Frasier doesn't exactly fall easily for people. And of course she turns out to be evil, she blackmails him, she frames him for murder, she shoots Diefenbaker, which is just, unforgivable. And your heart at least my heart breaks for him the entire 2-part episode, and then hardens right back up at the end during the platform scene. If you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. But then letting go, it helps build it back up. Because Frasier always picks himself back up, even when he's at his lowest. I think this is the only point in this series where the Mountie persona is completely stripped away and he's left just vulnerable and bare. And also, this probably solidified my love for Ray Vecchio because he is just unwavering in his loyalty, even in the face of ultimate betrayal. Number 9, Red, White, or Blue. This should have been the season 2 finale. Ignore flashback. It's unnecessary, it adds nothing. Focus on this. Red, White, or Blue is just a lovely tribute to Frasier and Ray's friendship. While Ray Vecchio is pretty whiny and moans and groans a lot about the things that Frasier does and puts him through, they do generally have a fairly easygoing relationship. This is one of the rare times you actually see them fighting, and it's great to see that Ray brings up some of these issues, that he finally just kind of can't take it anymore, and brings up the fact that, Frasier always gets to be the hero, he always gets all the glory, but of course Frasier doesn't do what he does for those reasons, and he never sets out to make Ray look bad. And it's great to see them kind of hash that out. It's also a sequel to All the Queen's Horses, which also narrowly missed making this list because that too is a fantastic episode. It's a very funny episode too. The psychic fight between Frasier and Ray is it might be my favorite scene of the series. Number 8, Odds. This, in my opinion, is the unofficial sequel to Victoria's Secret because once again, Frasier falls for a woman who turns out to be bad, but in a delightful twist, he hasn't actually fallen for her at all. He's actually had her number the entire time. And that was so refreshing to see because he was so completely blinded by Victoria. He actually goes pretty dark here. When she's dangling off the building and he pretends like he's going to let her drop, that's just cruel, and Frasier's not really ever cruel. But I like to imagine that he's projecting Victoria onto Denny at that moment. Ray Kowalski's actually really great here too. His protective streak really shines through with him constantly trying to warn Frasier off Denny the entire time, and of course diving through the skylight at the end. And the ending scene is also pretty adorable. Number 7, Call of the Wild Part 1 and 2. I'm cheating again, sorry, not sorry. Some plot issues aside, this is a really nice wrap-up for the series in terms of character. Unless you're Francesca or Ray Vecchio, I don't even know what that was, just ignore that part. Other than that, I love what this episode brings. I love Ray Vecchio's return in Part 1, the closure between Frasier and Thatcher where she finally comes to, I think, understand him as best as she's ever going to. The closure between Frasier and his father. Even the closure between Frasier and Francesca was nice, considering that's been a relationship that you don't really take seriously, ever. Ray Kowalski's identity crisis has kind of been a long time coming, and it's a lot of fun to see that he finally has to confront that he likes the life that he's built for himself here, and he really likes his bond with Fraser, and he's not super psyched about letting that go, but he's also grown from stalking Stella because he was willing to let Fraser go this time, whereas he was pretty much, well, stalking his ex-wife. Thatcher and Turnbull hanging out with Frobisher and his gang of Mounties was a lot of fun, and of course, who doesn't love Fraser and Ray Kowalski's Arctic adventure? They were two very lonely people, and seeing them ride off together is about the most satisfying conclusion that I could ask for. Although I really do wish they would have had one season with both Rays. That would have been fun. Number 6, Dead Guy Running. The thing about Fraser and Ray Vecchio's relationship is Fraser somehow manages to be a better friend to him after he's gone. And this is the prime example here. When even Francesca's first gut instinct was that, oh my god, Ray killed this guy, Fraser never ever believes that. And he actually goes outside the law a little bit. He doesn't break it, he bends it. He delays evidence until he can prove that that's the case. It's a very funny episode, too, between the car thief Stanley, Fraser, Ray, and Francesca wheeling the corpse all over the police station, and the most perfect payoff to an episode ever. It's also one of the very few times that Francesca is more than just comic relief. I wish she would have had more moments like that, because she pulls it off nicely. It's just that normally she's such a flighty, goofy character. Number 5, Manhunt. Yay for Buck Frobisher! You know, for the first half of this episode, he actually starts off as a pretty serious character, and then it's like halfway through they realize, no, this is kind of heavy, and then he just becomes Frank Drebin in the Mountie. Which I'm not complaining about at all, because nobody could, can, ever will be able to do that kind of humor as well as Leslie Nielsen did. It's also nice to see Fraser's other connections from Canada, few as though they may be. And where else are you going to get to see 2 wounded Mounties rowing through the sewers of Chicago with a detective complaining about it? Number 4, Vault. I love bottle episodes. They are great for character development and interaction. And yes, Vault isn't strictly a bottle episode, but it's pretty close. And I don't think enough credit gets paid to Paul Gross and David Marciano for their dynamic, because they actually bounced off each other pretty well, and their back and forth is really effortless here, and it flows great, and it's the main reason I go back to this episode over and over again. Number 3, Asylum. So besides Ray having unfortunately flat hair in this episode, this is a lot of fun. I love Turnbull's great here, and I love the mention of Lewis and Dewey's very flippant explanation as to what happened to him. But there's a lot of heart here, too. Fraser and Ray have already bonded pretty deeply at this point, with Ray's first instinct being to go to him for help when he gets into trouble, and Fraser never once doubting his innocence. But I think the bond gets even stronger here, because Fraser goes to Ray and basically asks him to put his complete trust in him, and Ray does it, and that's not easy for a guy like Ray to do. It's what elevates a good episode to a great one. Number 2, North. Can you tell that I just love episodes about Fraser and his relationship with the Rays? You would think this would be an episode, just from hearing the basic description, Fraser and Ray are lost in the woods, where Fraser would be right in his element, and normally he would be, but you know, he's got a concussion. So it's kind of great that it flips it on its head, and Ray really gets to step up and be the hero here. I mean, he literally carries Fraser through the woods at one point. That plus a couple of ghost dads trying to tear them apart, and it's just a lot of fun to watch. And even in the face of their fathers, they prove that they are better men. They don't abandon each other, Ray not to save himself, and Fraser not to catch his criminal. And finally, number 1, Mountie on the Bounty, part 1 and 2. Is anyone really surprised? Isn't that most people's favorite episode? So Fraser and Ray Kowalski have an edge to their dynamic, and you really, I mean, of course they do, because Ray is all wound up energy that constantly needs an outlet, and Fraser's got that stoic Mountie shtick going on. It's the unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Just one episode after Ray completely trusts Fraser, he asks the same in return, and Fraser just cannot compromise. And of course that drives the wedge between them. It's a great episode about trust and partnership, all wrapped up in a really fun pirate romp. The supporting characters all get something fun to do, and of course, yes, there is buddy breeding. And in the end, they decide against what they thought they wanted, and they choose each other instead. It's a really lovely episode. It's always fun to watch, and I can go back to it over and over again. And that is my list of top 10 favorite Due South episodes.